Hello viewers, welcome back. It is again your data with Raja. In today's video, we are going to see a complete step-by-step roadmap for freshers and beginners to become a data scientist in 2021. This video will also help for people who are tending to change their domains to data science domain. So let's get started. Now, my video series will be completely based on this roadmap, so please ensure to watch the full video. Anyone can learn data science in 6 months, but assume that you at least study 3 to 4 hours in a day. I know it's a bit difficult for working people, but my video series will push you to learn at least some of the data science skill in your day to day activities. So, here's the roadmap. Now, this roadmap will help people from two categories. Some people would have learned data science partially, but they still need to know what topics to be learned to become a complete data science. Number two category is that some people wanted to start their career in data science but don't know where to start. So, this roadmap will help you where to start. The first topic I would recommend for all to know is business domain topics. So this topic is not being taken by most of the tutorials and YouTube videos and institution. So I will be posting a video series in business domain. What is a business domain? What are the business basics? What is a problem statement? What is an opportunity statement? What is a metrics and how it is being connected to the business? And what are all the types of problem solving? So in my previous video, I told you that data science is one of the problem solving methodology, but still there are many more. And what is defined phase? And next topic I would recommend all to know is why we use statistics in business and what is the importance of statistics in business, what are the types of statistics, what is the data types used, and what is an operational definition, which will also be covered in the business domain topics, and what are the frequency distribution, measure of central tendency like mean, median, mode, measure of dispersion on standard deviation, variance and range, covariance and correlation, and why correlation choose over covariance, and what are all the types of probabilities distribution, what is central limit theorem, which is one of the important interview question, and what is z-score, what is hypothesis testing and where do we use it, what is confidence interval, what is a p-value or a critical value, and z-test, t-test, f-test, and ANOVA. And I would recommend all of these to be done with Excel first of all. So this can push you to implement some of these skills in your day-to-day life or day-to-day activities in your office. So though you don't need to be a data scientist as of now, but you can do all these stuffs for some of the problem solving in your own business or own activities. Next, we'll move on to programming language. As you know, Python is most used, but we still have R language. But I would be posting videos on Python language. So on a longer run, Python will be more helpful than R. Next, we'll go with Python topics, why we use Python and what are all the installation and IDEs and data types, the basic programming basics and the conditions and loops, break and continue, string objects, and list, set, tuples, and dictionaries is one of the most important interview questions, and other functions like lambda, oops, and all these we'll see the use case, and then we'll move on with the data collection. As you know, once you get the requirements from the customer, there would be a discussion on what data is needed for solving this problem. So for that, there may be a meeting between a business analyst, a product owner, and a data analyst, and a data scientist maybe. So in that, they need one of data extraction methodology and data storage methodology. So you have to at least need one database in SQL database and one NoSQL database, and you have to know how to extract data through web APIs or web scraping. So this is mandatory for any of the data scientists out there. So we will see some use cases with that. And data cleaning and manipulations, there are multiple tools for that. So now I would be posting on NumPy, where you have to go with NumPy data types. indexing and slicing, array attributes, matrix multiplication, strings, padding, all such things. And pandas, you have to obviously know pandas because this is one such bigger library which is used, and you have to know how you can read and write a file, what are all the indexing and all the sort of Excel manipulations that you can do in pandas. So once you get familiarized with NumPy and pandas, then you can directly move into visualizations. There are some pandas visualizations. You can use matplotlib library, plotly library, seaborn library, and you can go with one visualization software like Tableau or Power BI or ClickSense or ClickView. So all these will help you quick visualization of your data. So if you go in this flow, you can implement some of these skills in your day-to-day activities, though if you are not a data scientist in your company. Next, we'll move on with machine learning basics and feature engineering. So everyone should know the basic difference between AI versus ML versus DL and types of machine learning, and how do you split the data for any sort of machine learning. And we'll see what is underfitting and overfitting. This obviously you have to know. And what is bias versus variance, which is an important interview question. And then once you get the data, you store the data, and now you have cleaned the data a bit. Now you have to know how to handle the missing data or imbalanced data or an outliers of portion. So no data in real time is balanced. So obviously you have to know all these concepts of standardizing, scaling, normalization, and you have to know how to encode, and all these you have to know. And next, we'll move on to exploratory data analysis. This is one important phase in data science projects. So this is one of the expected skill from a data scientist, and most of the business leaders will expect at least some basic insights from this step. So in my video series, I'll be posting how to analyze data, and we'll see how the metric is being connected to the business. It's not about the metrics of a machine learning model, it is a business metrics. So how to convert any insight into a business language, and how does an organization have a reporting language. So each and every organization has its own unique way of reporting. So I'll be uploading these videos on these topics, and you have to know all such topics to become a successful data scientist. So next, one of the important topics which I wanted to focus is insights and importance for diagnostic analysis. So most of the data science videos does not focus on diagnostic analysis because it is not being considered into data science, but still it can solve some more problems. I have a use case which it happened in my organization, which is one big impact I created during this diagnostic analysis. So let me give you that example when I take that topic. Next, we'll move on with supervised machine learning. You obviously have to know regression. What is the mathematical intuition between the linear regression? And you have to know polynomial regression and metrics that are associated with regression. And how do you do hyperparameter tuning with ridge, lasso, and gradient descent? And you have to at least practice one use case and deploy it. Now, people with regression, please do not post house price prediction in your resume, because whomsoever has studied regression would have done that. So please don't use that topic to be highlighted in your resume. Next, you have to know logistic regression, the mathematical intuition behind it. What are all the metrics and confusion matrix with logistic regression? How do you tune it using your hyperparameters? And again, with the use case and deployment. And next we'll move on to KNN algorithm. This is a good distance-based algorithm. You have to know what is the complete mathematical intuition behind it. What is a scaling? How do you do a K? How do you select a K value? KNN regressor classifier, and with a use case. And next algorithm would be naive Bayes algorithm, and you'll have to know the basics of Bayes theorem and metric selection. What is the confusion matrix related to this particular algorithm? And you have to take a use case out of it. Now, decision tree algorithm. So decision tree, what is the mathematical intuition? And this is one of the easily explainable model. And you have to know what is information gain, entropy, Gini index, and advantages of decision tree and disadvantages of decision tree. What is pre-pruning and post-pruning? Why do we do that? And next algorithm would be random forest algorithm. This is one such important algorithm, and most of the interview questions revolve around this algorithm. So you got to know ensemble techniques, bagging, boosting, stacking, random forest regressor and classifier, and when do we use which, and ADA boosting, XG boosting, gradient boosting, and grid search CV. And most of the hackathon winners will use XG boosting to win, and that is mostly used algorithm. So then we'll move to support vector machine, and what is the mathematical intuition behind it, what is kernel, what is RBF kernel, all such stuff you have to know in support vector machine. After this, I will be uploading some of the basic interview questions in supervised machine learning alone. Then we'll move on with the unsupervised machine learning. You have to know k-means, and you have to know the basic mathematical intuition and what is the procedure to do a k-means clustering, and what is the main disadvantages and why k-means plus plus came into situation, and what is hierarchical clustering, dendrograms. And then you have to know the dimensionality reduction. In real time you may have more columns or more features, how to reduce it, what is PCA, and you have to know the eigen decomposition approach. Then time series. This is one important algorithm which most of the people leave that in choice. This is one algorithm where it can be in all the organizations. So any organization would have a revenue generating metric, and obviously they would have need to forecast what is happening in the business. So this is one of the most important algorithm. And you have to know what is a time series and the conventional methods of time series, and what is a stationary property and a non-stationary property, what is ACF and PACF, ARIMA model, and FB profit. I think this is one important time series model which has more sort of accuracy, and it was discovered by Facebook. And we'll also see some use cases. And model deployment is one such important phase where, though you have done a beautiful machine learning model, but you have to deploy it somewhere so that the users or the production team get benefit out of it. So you have to know at least one deployment application like Flask, and how do you do with Flask, what are all the app routing function, how do you build a URL, all such stuff. And you can know ML pipelines, Amazon SageMaker, Azure ML Studio, or ML Flow. You can know any one of these. And next is deep learning. So this is most important topic, but most of the organizations may not directly jump into deep learning. Only big companies like Amazon, Google, or Facebook. There can be some organization, but they don't give it for a fresher or a beginner. So you can get expertise in machine learning, and then you can go to deep learning. So neural networks, what is the meaning on introduction of deep learning? What is the detailed mathematical institution and the basics, the architecture, all the activation functions, loss function, optimizers, some of the optimizers. And you have to know what is the forward and backward propagation, what is epochs, batch, and iterations. This is one confusing topic which most of the interviewers confuse you with these questions in epochs and batches. And what are all the hyperparameters required in neural networks, and what is the main problem that emerged while the discussion of deep learning, and what are all the solutions for those problems. And you have to know TensorFlow, Keras, and what is TensorBoard, and you can have some use cases with multiple layer neural networks. Next, we have to jump on with convolutional neural networks, where it involves image processing. You have to know the overview and architecture and an end-to-end implementation of CNN, and what are all the hyperparameters required to put in. And you have to know what is pre-trained model and what is the transfer learning, and you can practice with your use case with that. And recurrent neural network would be the next one, and this you have to know why RNN and applications of RNN, what is the disadvantage of RNN, and why LSTM came into place, and what is GRU, and we'll see some use case out of it. So all these you have to know in deep learning. Next, you can also know OCR and OpenCV. So let me give you a small OCR problem. So your problem statement must be, in so and so time period, the time taken to fill the invoice in the ERP is some time, some X number of hours. So if you implement this OCR, it can reduce to so and so time. That can be a problem statement with OCR. So document parsing is one such example in the OCR. So I think I've given you an example with problem statement. And next comes object detection, tracking, classification. All these are used in some complicated or sophisticated problems. You can take an example of the road dash cameras, and you can take sports as an example where cricket uses all these sort of object detection using their ball. The LBW tracker uses all such RNN network which predicts the ball, that next this can go in, hit the stumps, and they decide the decision out or not out. So these are some of the examples, and we'll see some use cases with that. And next topic is NLP. So you have to know why NLP emerged and the history of it, what are the applications, and text pre-processing. Why do we need the text pre-processing? Stemming and lemmatization, tokenization, regular expression, NLP libraries, cosine similarity, and text to numbers, back of words, and what do you know called skipgram, fast text. And we'll see some use cases with that. Sentiment analysis, lexicon model, whether text classification, word to vec and doc to vec, attention layer, and image captioning. And you have BERT and ELMO models, by LSTM, stacked LSTM, and you have to know LDA and GPT. And you can also know chatbots, which will be useful for some of the companies, and it can also be useful for some small companies or a small business unit. Those are directly associated with the customers. Now, after completing all this, you have to know big data. So big data and data science are happily married. It's a famous quote, revolves around the data scientists. So obviously you have to know the basic concepts of big data, why big data came into existence, and what is Hadoop ecosystem, MapReduce concepts, yarn architecture, and what are all the various terminologies like blocks, you have stacks, all such terminologies. And we'll see one particular tool called Spark. You have to at least know one tool like Spark or Hive, and I would suggest Spark because it has also the inbuilt machine learning libraries into it. So next we'll see some of the ML ops. You have to know at least one cloud platform like AWS and GCP. This sums up the overall roadmap. I hope you have noted down the roadmap. My next video will be on business domain, so please stay tuned. So subscribe my channel, like my video, and hit the bell icon for notifications. If you have any suggestions, please put in the comment section below. Take care and be safe.